Have you ever felt like forgiving them meant betraying you? Like the moment you even considered letting it go, your chest tightened and your mind went, wait, if I forgive this, does that mean it didn't matter? Does that mean I didn't matter? Because that's the part nobody talks about. We hear forgive and move on, but nobody tells you how forgiveness can feel like you're handing your pain back to yourself like it was nothing. And if you've ever thought, if I forgive them, I'm letting them win, then baby, this episode is for you. Let's talk about when forgiveness feels like betrayal. Not betrayal of them, betrayal of you. Welcome back to day 9 of our 28-day self forgiveness journey. If you're here today, it's because something inside you is tired. Tired of carrying the weight. Tired of replaying that moment. Tired of being stuck in a place your body left years ago, but your heart keeps returning to. And I want you to know right now, you're not weak for struggling with forgiveness. You're human. This episode was inspired by a moment I still remember like it was yesterday. I was sitting alone, quiet house, quiet mind, but my spirit was loud. I had been praying, journaling, doing all the right things. People kept saying, you need to forgive. And I remember whispering out loud, but if I forgive, who's going to protect that version of me who got hurt? That question didn't make me bitter. That question made me honest. And honesty is where healing starts. So today, we're going to unpack this messy, tender, complicated place where forgiveness feels like betrayal. And by the end of this episode, you will understand why forgiveness can feel unsafe, what forgiveness actually is and what it is not, how to forgive without abandoning yourself, and how to reclaim your power in the process. Let's go there together. Let's define what we're really talking about. When forgiveness feels like betrayal, it's usually because your nervous system and your soul are saying, hold on, if I let this go, I'm saying it was okay. But listen, that's not forgiveness. That's permission. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was acceptable. Forgiveness is not rewriting history. Forgiveness is not inviting somebody back into your life. Forgiveness is not pretending you were fine. Forgiveness is simply this. Forgiveness is choosing to stop bleeding on the inside for something you didn't deserve. It's choosing to release what you can't change, not because they earned it, but because you've carried it long enough. Why does this matter? Because the version of you who was hurt is still inside you. And if you don't heal this part, you will keep living like you're still in the moment that broke you. Let me say that again slowly. If you don't heal what hurt you, you'll keep living like you're still there. And that's not peace. That's survival. So ask yourself, what happens when we ignore this part of ourselves? What happens when we keep calling it strength to stay guarded forever? What happens when we keep punishing ourselves for what other people did? You don't stay strong by holding pain. You stay strong by learning how to put it down. Let me tell you the truth about my own journey. There was a season in my life where forgiving felt like a slap in my own face because I had spent years building a case in my mind on what they did, why it was wrong, how it changed me, how I didn't deserve it, how I was never going to let it happen again. And the pain became a form of protection. It was like my heart said, don't you dare forgive. Because if you forgive, that means you're not taking yourself seriously. And whoo, I felt that. I was afraid that forgiveness would make me soft, afraid it would make me gullible, afraid I'd be taken advantage of again. So I held the pain. But here's what I didn't realize. I wasn't holding pain to protect myself. I was holding pain to prove I was hurt. And hear me, you don't have to keep reopening the wound to prove it happened. One day I had a breakdown moment, not a cute cry, not a let me wipe my tears and keep going cry, a real one. I remember thinking, I'm still angry. Not because I want revenge, but because I want justice. And I wanted the world to see it, to acknowledge it, to understand my pain. But the world doesn't always pay attention to our wounds. And if you wait for validation from people who can't give it, you will stay stuck. That was my turning point. I realized forgiving wasn't about letting them off the hook. It was about taking me off the hook because every day I held on to that anger, I was still tied to the person who hurt me. And I don't know about you, but I got tired of being spiritually handcuffed to a memory. So my transformation didn't start with me saying, I forgive you. It started with me saying, I deserve to be free. That's where forgiveness begins. Not in their apology, not in their growth, not in their remorse, in your decision. I deserve to be free. All right, let's coach through this together. If forgiveness feels like betrayal to you, here are steps you can take: slow, real, and doable. Step one, name what forgiveness is not. You need to separate forgiveness from self abandonment. So say this out loud: forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not excusing. Forgiveness is not trusting them again. Forgiveness is not minimizing what happened. Forgiveness is not returning to what broke me. Write those down if you need to, because your mind needs clarity before your heart can soften. Step two, validate the part of you that feels unsafe. The part of you that says, don't forgive, stay angry, is not your enemy. That part is your protector. So instead of fighting it, talk to it. Try saying, I see why you don't trust forgiveness. I see why you're scared. You're trying to make sure I don't get hurt again. You're not wrong for resisting forgiveness. You're just protecting the version of you that got hurt. Step three, give yourself the justice you wanted from them. This one right here changed my life. Sometimes we won't forgive because we never got justice. So give it to yourself. Justice can look like acknowledging how wrong it was, grieving what it cost you, admitting how it affected you, allowing yourself to be angry, setting boundaries, no longer tolerating what you used to endure. Your boundaries are proof that you learned. You don't have to stay bitter to stay protected. Step four, release the fantasy of who they should have been. Oof, this one burns, because a lot of our pain is not just what they did. It's who they were supposed to be, that they never became. A parent who should have protected you, a partner who should have cherished you, a friend who should have been loyal, a leader who should have guided you wisely. Forgiveness gets stuck when we keep waiting for somebody to become who they refuse to be. So today, whisper this truth: they may never be who I needed, but I can become who I need now. Step five, forgive in layers, not all at once. Let's be real. Some things you don't forgive in one prayer. Some things you don't forgive in one journal entry. Forgiveness is often a process. You might forgive 20% today, then 40% next month. Then something triggers you and you're back at 10%. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're human. Forgiveness is not a straight line. It's a spiral. But every time you come back to it with awareness, you heal a little deeper. Step six, choose freedom over loyalty to pain. This is the final choice point. At some point, you have to ask yourself, am I staying in pain because it feels familiar, or because I truly want to be free? Sometimes we hold pain because it's the only way we know how to keep connection to the past. But baby, you don't need pain to remember. You don't need bitterness to be loyal to yourself. You can remember and be free. Let me tell you what happens when you start forgiving without abandoning yourself. You stop reliving it every time someone raises their voice. You stop over-explaining why you don't trust people. You stop expecting the next heartbreak before love can even find you. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It just stops it from controlling how you live. You begin to feel lighter, not because the past was small, but because you stop carrying it alone. You gain emotional freedom. You gain clarity. You gain your life back. And here are a couple pitfalls to watch for. Pitfall 1, forcing forgiveness before you've grieved. If you forgive too quickly without grieving, you don't heal. You just bury pain in spiritual language. So give yourself permission to feel first. Pitfall 2, confusing forgiveness with reconciliation. Let me say this loudly. You can forgive someone and never talk to them again. Forgiveness is internal. Reconciliation is relational. They are not the same thing. Pitfall 3, believing forgiveness means no consequences. No, forgiveness doesn't remove accountability. You can forgive and still say, that was wrong. That hurt me. That changed the way I relate to you. These are the boundaries now. Forgiveness with boundaries is not bitterness. It's wisdom. Let's bring it home. If forgiveness feels like betrayal, it's because you've been taught that forgiveness means shrinking your pain to make others comfortable. But real forgiveness honors your pain, acknowledges your humanity, and still chooses freedom. You are not betraying yourself by forgiving. You're rescuing yourself from staying stuck in a story that already hurt you enough. So here's your call to action for day 9. Tonight, take 5 minutes, place your hand on your heart, and ask yourself, what part of me is afraid to forgive, and what does she need to feel safe? Then listen, not to judge, not to rush, just to witness. Because when you witness yourself, you stop abandoning yourself. And that is the real healing. Here's your affirmation: I can forgive without forgetting who I am. I can release without minimizing my worth. I choose freedom and I choose me. You are not behind in your healing. You're just right on time for your breakthrough. Thank you for sitting with me today. I don't take it lightly that you let me into your heart and your healing. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs permission to forgive without self betrayal. And make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss the rest of this journey. For more support, resources, and deeper healing tools, visit me at https://wayofthewiseowl.com. I love you. And I'll meet you right here tomorrow for day 10. Until then, be gentle with your heart. You're doing holy work.